Hi, this is Kathy Riley with Kathy Stamps for You, and we're going to be creating a card today using our Colored Cross stamp set that's featured in our Bloom This Way mini catalog, as well as our lace background stamp and our doily die. Now what we're going to do first is we're going to take our lace background stamp and we're going to flip it over. This is the way I prefer to stamp using the background stamps. And I'm inking it up really well. I'm using the Lavender Fusion ink, and I'm going to be stamping the card base, which is in Sweet Amethyst. A nice contrast with those two inks. And I also use that for the card front. The dimensions will be on my blog. Now we're going to take some vellum and we're going to grab the cross off of our Color Cross stamp set. And I have some vellum. We have a wonderful variety pack of vellum in our main catalog. And we're going to take this cross and we are going to ink it up with clear pigment ink. We're going to make sure that it's really covered well. But first, we're going to take some of our Pan Pastel clear blender. And I just grab some on my finger and I rub it across my vellum. What this does is it prevents any excess flakes or flicks of embossing powder to stick anywhere, so you get a nice, clean, crisp image. Like I said, I picked it up with my finger and I'm rubbing it everywhere. Now we're going to ink up the cross and we're going to get a good impression of that. Make sure when you use your clear pigment ink on your vellum, you want to give it some pressure. The red rubber, it isn't going to bend, it isn't flexible. You want to make sure that that image is really crisp and clean. This is a very detailed stamp. There you can see it. Oh, so pretty. I love that stamp. Now I'm taking some of our Fun Stampers Journey white embossing powder, and I am going to be very generous, always am with my embossing powder, and make sure that that cross is covered entirely. And I'm going to pour back into my container. The vellum's pretty flexible, so it's pretty easy to do. I take a look, make sure that there's no spots that I happen to miss, no places where there's any of the clear pigment ink. I flip it over and I flick off any extra. And there you have it. It's just, the lines are so clean and crisp on this stamp. I just love it. Now we're going to take our Fun Stampers Journey heat tool. What I like to do with vellum is I like to heat it from the bottom and kind of get that very bottom layer, because vellum is less porous than our regular cardstock, and just get that set into place. I don't even flip it over. I start with the tool right underneath the image, and then you'll see me, I flip it over and I finish it off. You can actually see it change. See how pale it is? You could actually see where now the embossing powder is starting to heat up and it's starting to melt and set into place. And then I will flip it back over and finish it off. Make sure I have everything all melted and in place. Make sure when you're using your embossing powders too, remember they are a plastic. They're hot. And while they are still hot, they can smudge and move. So just let that cool down for a minute or two. Now I'm going to grab our some of our splashes from our Be Amazing line. I have Turbo Teal, Sour Lemon, Orange Rave, Cosmic Grape, and Outrageous Pink. The more vibrant and darker the colors that you use in this kind of a technique, the better results you're going to have. I also have our Gold Silk, and you can see I'm shaking it up. There's a little bead in the bottom. And because these have a little bit of a metallic finish to them, they do separate. So just give them a good hard, no, not too hard. Just give them a nice shake so that nothing is separated anymore. Um, I trimmed out my cross just because it was a little bit easier to work with. And then I'm going to flip it over. I have the back side. And what we're going to do with our silks is the pattern and design on this cross is actually in rows. And you can pick different sections to color it however you choose. I believe I used Cosmic Grape in the center. And then I grabbed some, I think that is Outrageous Pink that I did in the centers there. And one thing I have found, I've done a few of these, work from the inside out. You have better results. You're less likely to smudge it. I did that a couple of times too. Um, the main the main path, you might want to call it, on this cross. That one I'm taking, and I've done all of those in the gold silk. I just think the cross with the gold is just stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. Just filling it in some more. I'm also careful not to get it in any other sections because you will see it. Once you have a color down, if you get a color on top, you really don't see it. But if you get something on that primary layer, then yes, you will see it. It will show through on the other side once you're all done. There, I'm taking some sour lemon. I know that these colors just look kind of funky and wonky on this, but believe me, you will really like the end results. Now on the very outside, I don't know why, but I think every single one of them that I've done, I've taken the turbo teal. I love this color of the Be Amazing colors. I absolutely, this is my favorite. I'm a turquoise kind of girl. And I'm going through and I'm just completing the very last. And I grabbed my sour lemon because I had missed a spot. You do see little spots and you can go back and touch up. Wipe your brush off as much as you can. The less you use, you can always build it up. But if you start with less, you're better off. Less is more kind of situation. And there it is. You'll get a close up of it. And I had missed a couple of little spots. I'm just, the gold I like to go over twice, and I must have missed a spot going over that. But isn't that pretty? And it would go on any color of cardstock. I've done it on Pool Play and on the Sweet Amethyst, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Now I'm grabbing my Amaze machine. One thing with vellum or cardstock or anything, because of our magnetic platform, sorry about the shaking camera, it's easier to move the paper than it is the die. So if you've got a die that's kind of snapping around, move your paper, your die's in a place, and it doesn't want to move. What I did also is I cut out a piece of our whipped cream cardstock, and I'm covering it with our craft glue. And when you put that on the back of those colors, it really makes them stand out and they just pop so much more. Um, you put a very generous amount of glue on there because then you can kind of shift it and move it. You can get all the air pockets out of it and you can just wipe it off. I grabbed one of the phrases and used some black licorice ink. And I'm just going to stamp one of the verses on the bottom. I also included our grape lattice ribbon that is also in our Bloom This Way mini catalog. Cut out a doily out of our whipped cream cardstock. And again, the easiest way to put this doily on, I used to just dab and dot. Now I take the white end of our craft glue and I just wipe it everywhere. I push it all down. It's all adhered. You can also use some of our white liner sheets and cut that out with your doily. Attach it to your whipped cream. In there, I'm just pushing out. I had a couple of air bubbles. I'm taking some of our medium journey squares and I am popping it out. When in doubt, pop it out and attaching it to the front of my card. Now I'm going to add some dimensionals. Oh, first, to just kind of add some definition when I use a background stamp on the front of a card, I do take my ink pad. I don't necessarily get a shadow or anything. I just run it along the edge just to give it a little bit of definition. Here I'm doing a little phobo and almost cut it the wrong way. And just adding a little phobo there. Now I'm going to add my dimensionals. Just one in each corner, and then I put a mini one in